Bitcoin is currently dropping like there's no tomorrow, so let's talk about it. If we take a look at my screen, you can see that Bitcoin got extremely close to the $100,000 mark, and now we're sort of starting to see Bitcoin sell off. Now, I did a video on Bitcoin specifically just a few days ago on what I think would happen when Bitcoin reached the price of 100,000. I anticipated a sell-off down to about 80 to the $85,000 range. Now, the reason for this is because the $100,000 mark is, as I've previously stated, an extremely psychological level for retail traders. Now, not only retail traders, but institutions have also been buying Bitcoin like there is no tomorrow. And I would imagine that certain institutions are looking to take profit at around the $100,000 mark. When we have a psychological level like 100,000 on Bitcoin on any asset, really, it is only expected and reasonable that we start to see a reaction or profit taking and panic selling and all these different things once that certain asset approaches the psychological level, right? That's anticipated and expected. So there's no need to worry. I think a correction move at around $100,000 was expected. In fact, I was heavily anticipating that we were going to see a sell-off, which is why I did a video on it a few days ago. Now, please understand that this is not a permanent thing, right? It's a temporary pullback. It's a temporary correction in the market. It happens in every single market on every single asset. If we zoom out here, you can see that Bitcoin have been pumping like there's no tomorrow, right? And people start to look at it as an overvalued asset, and they start to sell it because of fear or panic. Now, just like I showed you in the last video, we can take a look at the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, which basically shows the emotional side of retail investors and institutional investors on Bitcoin specifically. So right now it's valued at about 82, which comes in at an extreme greed. Now, what we typically see when we have the fear and greed index on any asset really move up to about the 80 and above range, so the extreme greed is profit taking, right? Because people understand that, okay, other people are starting to be greedy, other people are starting to panic. Now, we are likely going to see a sell off here, so I am going to sell as well. That's what we call panic selling, and it happens very, very fast. And it can actually cause huge correction moves in the market. And we've seen it in the stock market hundreds of times. Now, again, this is a very temporary thing, in my opinion. I don't think Bitcoin is anywhere near its top. As I mentioned in my previous video, I think it has the potential to 10x. So none of you guys are late. I think you guys should look at this as an opportunity to buy more. Because obviously, if you are just getting into Bitcoin and you're looking to purchase at 100,000, well, then you are simply not buying it in a discounted price. And these correction moves in the market is what allows traders to get inside the market and buy Bitcoin at a discounted price. Now, if we zoom out here on Bitcoin, you can see that every single time we had a correction move in the market, the ROI, if you bought the dip, would have been amazing. So it's just never a bad idea to buy the dip, because again, it allows you to buy Bitcoin at a discounted price. Now, let's talk a little bit about why I think Bitcoin can 10x and why I think that there's no need to worry about the current pullback that we're seeing. I understand that we have a lot of new investors in the space. And obviously, as a new investor, when you have money in an asset and it starts to drop, you begin to panic. Exactly why we see panic selling happening in all these different things, right? Please understand that no matter what you invest in, it's going to have correction moves. It's going to have pullbacks, right? No chart looks like this. It's simply impossible, right? It looks like this. We see a pullback. We see a pullback. This is what a healthy market looks like, right? So all this is for is buying the dip, in my personal opinion, at least if you are looking to capitalize off of Bitcoin longer term and you believe in its longevity. Now, let's quickly take a look at the Chinese stock market here. As you guys can see, we have recently seen a quite large correction move here in the Chinese stock market after a huge rally. Now, what I think that China is going to do, although I could be wrong, is they are going to inject more and more stimulus into the market to compete with other nations. If you guys are up to date on the market, you know that most assets like gold and the entire US stock market is trading around all-time highs. And obviously, China wants to compete with those stock markets. So I think they're going to be very aggressive on the stimulus side of things. Now, if we take a look at the correlation between the price of Bitcoin and the Chinese stimulus, you can see that they are very correlated. In fact, according to cryptonews.com, the correlation is about a 94%, which is, insane. So as you can see, they are just super, super correlated, right? And that means the more stimulus China injects into the stock market, the higher the price of Bitcoin. That is historically speaking, that's what's going to happen because they are so correlated. Now, something else that could explain the recent sell-off here on Bitcoin is the fact that we have a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. That creates a lot more certainty around safe haven assets like gold, but also assets like Bitcoin, because believe it or not, Bitcoin kind of behaves like gold, which is also why people are talking about Bitcoin as the digital gold. It's a good investment when there's uncertainty in the world, because again, the value of traditional investments like bonds simply decrease, and so investors are looking to place their money elsewhere, and that is likely going to be Bitcoin or assets like gold. Now, if we take a look at gold, you can see exactly that. Gold had a large reaction to the ceasefire because, again, that creates more certainty. And the more certainty there is, the worse it is for gold historically. So that is sort of what I'm anticipating with Bitcoin as well, or that could be, another reason why we are sort of seeing a sell-off here. In my eyes, Bitcoin is here for the long run, so there is absolutely no reason to panic. I think, if anything, you should be buying more as Bitcoin sort of decreases in value. Now, historically on Bitcoin, we see a massive rally after the US election has taken place, and we've actually never returned to the lows made prior to the election historically. That means that if we base our technical analysis off of seasonality, these lows should never be revisited again. So there's just, 1,000 reasons why Bitcoin might be going higher, and very, very few as to why Bitcoin might be going lower. So no, I think it's pretty much impossible that this is the top of Bitcoin. Again, people like to be very, very dramatic. I think the best strategy, according to history, is again going to be buying more and more and more as Bitcoin decreases in value. And those are sort of my current thoughts on the situation on Bitcoin. No need to panic. It's simply a correction move off of a psychological level. We see it all the time on many different assets. Now, that was just the time for Bitcoin. And if you guys have been in the crypto space for a long time, you would know that the $100,000 mark is again a level that's been talked about for years, and therefore it makes sense for that to be a psychological level or a take profit level, or even people anticipating this to happen are probably shorting Bitcoin right now. But again, temporary, right? It's not permanent. So do not stress, do not worry, simply buy more if anything. That's my investment advice. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, so do not take that to heart. Do exactly as you will. But these were my thoughts on Bitcoin. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video.